All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call the May 18th meeting of the Merced County Association of Governments Governing Board to order. I'll begin with an invocation from Director Pereira, and then after that, I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Pereira.
Is this on?
We'll find out.
Heavenly Father, thank you for loving us, and thank you for being in this room. I pray that you would give us guidance, that we would do the work of the people, and that we would make the right decisions that not only benefit our county, but benefit your purpose, Lord. And we're humans. We make mistakes all the time. So I just pray that you would stir in us a peaceful mood, a pure heart, and a clear head. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I think I skipped ahead. I got used to the way we do it at the Merced City Council meetings where we go all that. Roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Espinoza?
Present.
Director Hoag? Here. Director Lambert?
Sometimes they get crossed up, like I'll do this, and then I'll go to the City Council and be like, here.
Director McDaniel?
I'll be like,
Present.
start with.
Director Moran? Director Nagy?
Here.
Director Nelson?
Here.
Director Pereira?
Present.
Director Silvera? Vice Chair Pedroso?
Here.
Chair Serrato?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mary Michael. Takes us to item 2, which is the approval of the agenda. Any comments, discussion, or a motion with respect to item 2?
Mr. Chair, Silvera, motion to approve the agenda.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Silvera Espinosa. Any opposition? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
You
Takes
have to
us.
do a roll call vote because you have Josh on the.
Oh, good point. All right, we got to do a roll call. Thanks.
Director Espinoza?
Here.
Present. Yes. Aye.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Yanes? Director Lambert, excuse me. Director McDaniel?
Begrudging having to do a roll call vote, but aye, because of Pedroso.
Director Moran? Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Take a minute to laugh.
Director Pereira?
Aye.
Director Silvera?
Aye.
Vice Chair Pedroso?
Begrudgingly, after hearing McDaniel's comments, aye.
Chair Serrato?
Gosh, live from the Motel 6 and somewhere outside of Omaha. Yes.
At least make your bed.
Yeah, I know.
Out loud. The mom and you
That's a good point. Your mom.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Public comment. Is there anybody from the public who will wish to comment at this time on any non-agendized item, or else the dressing habits and the bed-making habits of Vice Chair Pedroso? Anything else? Okay, seeing none. Anything on online? Nope.
Oh, good.
Okay.
We have Director Moran.
Yes.
Sorry.
All right. Takes us to item 4, which is our Citizens Advisory Committee report. Do we have our Citizens Advisory Committee report? Okay. That's okay. We can pass it. Obviously, it's an ongoing item that appears every month. We can wait for next month until the report. Caltrans Report. Item 5. Okay. All right, Marlon, good afternoon, Marlon. Welcome as always.
Where to look now? There's.
Good afternoon, sir.
It'll be like 6 months before it gets done.
Director, always a pleasure. Just would like to give some brief updates from Caltrans. Apologies, Dennis could not make it today. He gives his regards. He is at a CTC meeting today. But I do have some brief updates for the board today. First of all, I'll start with our theme for the month, which is Bike Month. We are excited to share and also discuss and provide our guidance and our message, as always, regarding bike safety and multimodal accessibility. That's something that we take very much pride in, that we are taking steps to include pathways of travel all across our statewide transportation network for bicyclists and pedestrians. So this week and many other agencies are also celebrating Bike Week. And so I just want to make sure the board is aware. You guys will see signs out and about regarding bicyclist safety on our roadways. So please be aware and work safe as well. So just wanted to share that message, and that this will also be on our social media. Quick note for the board as well. We did recently extend the deadline for the Clean California Local Grant Program Cycle 2. I believe the deadline was earlier this month, and it was extended until May 31st, which is 2 Wednesdays from now at 5 p.m. So just want to make sure the board is aware. I do know that there are hopefully some proposals coming from Merced County, and be looking forward to that. So just want to share that information. And I'm happy to provide any feedback on the program if you guys have any questions or whatnot. Otherwise, there are a couple other, just quickly, program funding opportunities that are also out there. One being our Transformative Climate Communities. This application process is currently underway. This application there's basically $100 million available for planning, project development, and implementation grants for transforming climate communities. I'm happy to provide more information on that. The deadline for this is July 3rd. So, sorry. July 3rd is just for the project development portion. For all portions, including the planning portion, it's August 1st for all applicants. And again, I'm happy to share any information on that program that you'd like. Another program that there's a funding opportunity for is the California Energy Commission and the Clean Transportation Program. This is for electric vehicle charging. And we're looking for high density, high visibility installations, but this is not a Caltrans program. This is a California Energy Commission program, but just wanted to share that there's $24 million available for EV charging infrastructure. This one closes about a month from now on June 16th, and all of our public agency partners, businesses and nonprofits are eligible, and tribal organizations are eligible to apply. This information is also on grants.ca.gov. And lastly, or actually there's two more I wanted to mention, one being from the federal DOT, Safe Streets and Roads for All. That application, it's really for limiting serious injuries and deaths on roads and streets, commonly referred to as Vision Zero. There's $1.7 billion of funding available for this. The deadline to apply is July 10th. Again, this is the Safe Streets and Roads for All federal program. And lastly, the Strategic Growth Council has a Transformative Climate Communities program also available. There's a lot of climate funding opportunities out there right now. This one is really for neighborhood community plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. $2.5 billion available for this program as well, statewide. Local agencies, state, regional, and special districts are eligible to apply, as well as tribal. This deadline's further out, August 1st. So if you guys are interested in that, I'm happy to provide additional information. So I'll stop there regarding funding opportunities, but I do want to also mention, lastly, some of the items that came up at last board meeting. And I wanted to particular focus, let's see, On Planada, Director Espinosa, I know you had requested some feedback on the Sutter Street improvements. What I've heard is we are developing a project in response to the meetings that we've held and feedback that we've gotten from the public, and specifically in Planada. This project will install new crosswalks and a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. We're going to kick off this project in July, and if you need any specific updates on this project, Director, I'm happy to provide that. And this is an operational improvement that we're working on. You also mentioned the Plainsburg Road intersection, and I know there was some concern from residents. I spoke with our project team, and we would like to hold another public meeting at the time and date of your liking. So our project team will reach out to you for further information on when we can set up another public meeting. You also mentioned Henry Miller at Route 33. This project is actually a county project, so the county is going to be leading this project, and Caltrans is just a partner on this. So if you'd like further information, the county is the most critical point of contact for the Henry Miller 33 improvements. And I know you did mention also some work on 99. I did ask our maintenance team to take a look at that as well. There's probably others that I've missed, but I have asked our teams to definitely take a look at some of the board requests from last month and get back to you. But I'm happy to take any questions. That does conclude my update for today, and thank you again for the time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Marlon. Thank you as always. First, starting on my right, any questions? Director Espinosa.
Marlon, thank you very much. Appreciate all your updates, and I will ask the MAC members if they want another session with you with Caltrans to see if they still want to leave. I know they were opposing they don't want the roundabout, but like I said, if they want the signalization, not the roundabout. But I know that for statewide, you guys are moving to roundabout, so that would be a decision they have to make. If not, that way you guys can move forward and not slow down the project. Also on Sutter, it'll be greatly appreciated, all the crossing right there. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Director Espinosa. Anybody else on my right? To my immediate left, Director Silvera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marlon, I know I just reached out to you earlier in the week. Did you have any update on the mowing along Highway 152?
Oh, I'm not on mute. Yes, Director Silvera. I did speak with our maintenance team regarding the 152 median. What I heard was the plan was just to initially touch the intersections and then go back and do the full length of the median between Los Banos and the Dos Palos Y.
Okay, perfect. I drive by there every day, and I'm telling you, those weeds are getting drier and drier, and we're getting into the season now with the warm weather. I was a volunteer fireman for 20 years, and those fires, when the wind blows typically like it does in the afternoon in Los Banos, I remember going to fatality accidents where the smoke is just blinding across the road and cars pile up. And so I've never seen the grass as tall as it is. If you're in a car and you're on one side of the highway, you can't see the cars on the other side of the highway. So I think it's really of an area of importance. I do appreciate that they did the intersection, so at least people can see when they're crossing over there to be able to enter the other lane of traffic. Also, I want to go back to the Clean Parks grants. I want to let you know that Merced County did submit one, and we actually submitted ours on April the 27th, the day before the deadline. And I would like to think that those projects that submitted on time with the original timeline should get special consideration over the ones that submitted after the timeline. Do you have any information on that?
No, I honestly, I would not expect any special considerations for those that have been submitted before or prior to May 31st or prior to the original deadline. Again, in the district, we don't review the actual Clean California local grant program allocations or applications from our own district. it's one of those things where the ones that get submitted locally, they get sent far away and we don't get to see them. So, but I don't think there's any preference or at least additional scoring for those that submit before the deadline, so to speak. I hope that answers your question.
Well, it answers my question, but I'd like to submit that we change that rule, the ones that followed, because that deadline, it wasn't like it was a very short deadline, and all of a sudden you had to get it quickly turned around. Those deadlines were out there for quite some time, and so if they're extending the deadline, one might be led to think that maybe they didn't have enough projects, and so. Yeah, so I just, if you talk to the folks higher up, I'd like you to pass on my concerns that, we should reward those who follow the rules and maybe not reward the ones that don't follow the rules as well.
Yeah, thanks, Director. I will make sure I pass that along to our headquarters team for consideration. Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else on my immediate left? Far left, anybody? All right, Supervisor, or
Yeah,
Director Nagy, or go ahead, Josh. Looks like you've moved to nostril cam now or something. Yeah.
can I ask my question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Marlon, can you send us the information for the safe route or safe streets and roads, please?
Sure, absolutely, we'll do.
Thank you.
You got it.
Director Nagy.
Hi, Marlon. Director Nagy here. Have you been able to find out the bridges that are going to be repaired or replaced?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I sent that to Director McDaniel, but I'll send that over to you as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
My apologies.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you as always, Marlon. Want to thank you, your agency, for your work at the Highway 140 and V Street intersection of the city of Merced too. We've just appreciate you guys being proactive, looking at ways to improve that intersection. So, thank you for that. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Marlon. I'd log off quickly while you can. Takes us to 6, the informational items. Again, these are for informational purposes only. Do any members of the board wish to have any pulled for separate discussion? Okay, seeing none. Josh, nothing. Takes us to the consent calendar. Any discussion on any items on the consent calendar? Any items desired to be pulled for separate consideration or a motion?
Also moved.
Okay. Second. All right, McDaniel and Nagy. Roll call vote, please.
Director Espinoza?
Aye.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Lambert? Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Moran?
Aye.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Yes.
Director Pereira?
Aye.
Director Silvera?
Aye.
Vice Chair Pedroso?
Yes.
Chair Serrato?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mary Michael. Takes us to item 9, the discussion items. 9A is the Merced County Association of Governments 2023 Measure V Implementation Plan Update. Turn it over to our Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is seeking the board's direction to begin what is essentially the process to update the Measure V implementation plan. Just as a reminder, or for those that are new to this process, the implementation plan is the programming document, is the document that assigns the Measure V regional funding revenue to projects on the east and the west side, as well as the transit allocations. So that, as at a minimum, has to be updated every 2 years. The most recent update was in 2021, so that means we are due for an updated document by the end of this calendar year. So our target would be December of 2023. The requested action is essentially to direct staff to issue a call for funding requests to kick off that project or that process. If you are new to this process, meaning you were not on the board in 2021 and you would like a refresher on the measure and the implementation plan and how it works and the process, I'd be happy to do that. Just let me know. But if I could direct your attention to page, let's look, 95 of the packet, there is a summary there of in the discussion section of a couple of things that we are proposing as part of this update. So compared to how we did this last year. So we are proposing a 5-year programming period. So that means, you know, the measure is a 30-year document or 30-year measure, and the board and through the East and West committees have each taken different approaches to, well, we'll program 1 or 2 years of funding, or maybe 5 years of funding, or maybe 7 years of funding. We are proposing that we begin to look at that in 5-year increments, which means every time we're doing an update, we're adding 2 new years of capacity, because 2 years have passed since the last time that we did an update. This is very consistent with how other programming processes go at the state. So that would mean that we would be looking at revenue from 23-24 through 27-28. We updated the revenue projections based on what we received from HDL, which is our contracted firm that works with us on our measure revenue. We also updated the contingency reserves through that 5-year programming period based on the previous board policy to have a 5% of the annual allocation going into an East and West Side contingency reserve. And then we've also, in that tables on page 95, summarized the existing programmed expenditures that were approved in the 2021 plan. And then lastly, I will say this board has been very conservative, has been deliberately conservative in what the ultimate dollar amount is that we're programming, and that has been essentially to make sure that we're not oversubscribing and that we're not programming all of what is being projected, because it is subject to economic sensitivities. So we are proposing that the way to approach that moving forward is now to take those projections that we're getting from HDL and program 10% less. So less 10% would be the number that we would be actually working with to assign to projects. So that's a lot there, but if you look at the tables for the East Side and West Side on page 95, you essentially see that East Side revenue less 10%, the interest earned, the allocations for those programming years for the contingency, then everything that's already been programmed for the East Side through the last plan, and you'll see that what we would be working with on the East Side is $22.7 million of programming capacity for that 5-year period. If you do the same for the West, you look at the West Side revenue less 10%. You add in your interest earned. You take out, essentially the West Side has a unique set aside for leveraging, but the board has, or the West Side committee recommended and the board approved capping that at $3 million. It is flush, so there wouldn't be annual allocations there because it's flush at $3 million. You then also take into account the contingency allocations and then the total program through 27-28 per the 21 implementation plan, and there is a balance there of $9 million. So if you look at the schedule, also on page 95, we are proposing to release a call for projects to all of the jurisdictions by the end of this month, so by May 31st. That would be to include the documents that are at your seats right now. This is the updated programming document. We would send this out to all the jurisdictions with the appropriate forms and would ask that they submit their request for funding to either the East or West, depending on your jurisdiction, by August 1st. And then we would, over the summer, be scheduling the East and West Side regional project committees. So those that are new to this process, you are your jurisdiction's representative on that committee unless you designate one of your colleagues on your councils to be your representative. It's all the jurisdictions that have electeds that represent communities on either the east side or the west side of the river. And I know there's been some change there. I believe Director Espinoza is moving also to the west side committee as well. We'll set those to occur in late August, early September. September, I think, is going to be a tough month for a lot of people's schedules. But the goal would be to have those recommendations to this body sometime by the October board meeting. Then we could release a draft plan for public review and hear in the public hearings in November, with the board adopting in December. So just to just to spend a second to walk through this. I'm very proud of this programming document. We spent a lot of time trying to make it user-friendly, but you'll notice one is for the west side, right under the Measure V logo. It'll say west side, east side. Josh, I'll email these to you. I'll email them to you this evening so you can have them as well, but they will be going out if the board takes action today. You'll see east side, west side. What you're looking at is the fiscal year columns. The programming period is what I'm talking about in green. We're looking at revenue that's available in those years. I included the 28, 29, and 29, 30 in gray as the outer year. Those would essentially be, under this proposal, we wouldn't be looking at programming revenue out there, but those would be the 2 years that would come into the plan in 2025. So for the purposes of this, we are proposing just looking at the revenue for this 5-year span. We already have some programmed projects that are taken into account, and you can see at the third to the last line, it is the balance by fiscal year, then the cumulative unprogrammed balance. So that's what you're looking at. And on the west side, you see that total is $9 million. And on the east side, it is 22. As you can see, the west side programmed more out into those outer years than the east side has. So their balance availability is a little bit lower because of those previous commitments. The last thing I'll mention here is that just to note that in that green section and beyond, those are noted in blue because those are estimates based on the projections. And the projects that we have been notified that have been closed out are shaded, the lines are shaded in gray on the left, and those reflect the actual expenditures for those projects. So I know that's a lot, but it's a lot to just say we're asking for the direction to initiate a call for projects on the general schedule that is provided in the staff report, releasing this programming document to show a 5-year period of revenue that we would be considering for project allocations, and with a total annual amount to be 10% less than what the projections are from the consultant. Did I just muddy all that up? But I'm happy to answer any questions. This is literally, this will be the first time you see this. You will be tired of looking at these documents by October. So if it seems like a lot, this really is a step-by-step process. We'll work with your jurisdictions to make sure, especially since there's been a lot of turnover for both city managers and public works folks and planning folks, to make sure that they understand the process and what they're looking at, understanding the earlier policies that the board has established, and then we'd be convening you all in your respective committees at the end of the summer. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Mine's more of a comment, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
First off, I want to thank my colleagues from the East Side for allowing me to participate in the East Side Regional Projects Committee for 4 years, but now that my district has changed, I will no longer be participating in those. And I also want to take the opportunity to welcome my colleague from District 1, Director Espinoza, over to the West Side Regional Projects Committee for this upcoming round, as now that he represents part of the West Side.
All right, thank you, Director Silvera. Any other comments, questions? Left, right. Okay, seeing none and no public input on this one.
Mr. Chair, I just did want to highlight, I want everybody to listen to this, is just looking at that August 1st, 2023 date. So I'd hope that everybody would go back and share that with their staffs, that The deadline for requests for projects and funding is August 1st of 2023. I think that's important, that if you want your projects to be considered, and I'm no longer on the east side, so at least the west side folks, if you want your projects to be considered, that deadline is very important, of August 1st, 2023.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Once again, stressing the importance of deadlines. Director Nagy?
Kind of a hypothetical question. If they were to take that deadline from August 1st to like September 1st, would people that submitted by August 1st get special treatment?
I would second that motion if that's what that was.
If you make the motion, move the deadline. I like it. Move the deadline to September 1st, but then if you submit before August 1st, you get a 5% point bonus. What's Josh doing? All right. Any additional comments, questions? Vice Chair Pedroso, anything? All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Do we need a motion? And the motion would be to direct staff to issue a call for funding requests with the August 1st deadline.
Second.
All right. McDaniel and Pereira, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Chair, this is not an action item. I think it's just a discussion.
Yes, that was my misdirection to the chair. That is correct. It is a speak now or forever hold your peace, because this is the plan of action, not a formal action. Thank you. Sorry about that, Mr. Chair.
Oh, it's fine.
Call my second.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, we're drawing the first, though.
My motion's still there.
Who wants to vote?
I think we should formalize it.
The agenda, it calls for a requested action to direct staff to issue a call for funding requests. If that
Yeah.
probably doesn't hurt.
So my motion's still there. And I'll put my second back on.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Turn to the
Can
lawyer.
we do it for possibility? You can do, I mean, we can make an informal motion to do this, but it was not agendized for action, and the agenda does not contain a requested action. So, formally speaking, for Brown Act purposes, it's not an action.
Okay.
I'm pulling my second.
Anyone want a second, Darren's?
Second.
All right, we'll move on. 9B, which is our meeting schedule change. Stacy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an unusual item. It's not something we would typically, and now I just realized that this is also listed as a discussion item.
Yes, but my suggestion would be have the discussion and then take the action at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, council. All right, so this is not a typical kind of discussion, because we set the board agenda and we go forward, and typically when it comes to needing to move something or change something, which rarely happens, that is something that I can work with the chair to do. But because there are two and they are a little squishy, I wanted to have this kind of open conversation with everybody at the same time. It's about the September board meeting and the December board meeting. So the September board meeting is currently scheduled for September 20th. That is, as I understand, the same week of the Cal Cities annual conference in Sacramento and the Rural County Representatives of California meeting in Monterey. And those will, I believe, run September 20th through the 22nd. Therefore, the September 20th meeting becomes difficult. If you layer in one voice, Valley Voice that happens, I think, the week before that. The two options that I am proposing to choose or get direction to move forward with would either be to cancel the meeting or to move it to September 28th. Canceling the meeting, we've been working as a management team to identify if we are early enough that we can manage to take items either into August or October without there being any real impact. But that is something I would be asking of the board as to whether or not there's a preference to cancel or to move to the 28th. Do we want to talk about that one first, maybe?
Sure.
Okay.
Who prefers moving it to the 28th? Raise your hand. Who prefers canceling it? Raise your hand.
Okay.
Looks like we had a majority for.
That was easy enough. Okay, so we'll bring this as a formal action next month. The second item is the December board meeting. It happens to fall 4 days before the Christmas holiday on December 21st. We can hold that meeting. I just wanted to call that to everyone's attention. It's very rarely that close to the holiday. Sometimes it can cause a quorum issue. Typically, it's harder. We typically have an agenda in December. We try to keep it light, but we do need to have a meeting. So we could move that meeting to December 14th or keep it on the 21st. From a staff perspective, it doesn't matter, so as long as we can achieve a quorum. I'm just trying to avoid being, December 10th and realizing that we're not going to have a quorum for a meeting on the 21st.
Okay. Who prefers the 14th? Show of hands.
Did you check to make sure this chamber is available on the 14th?
We did not, but we can if it's not available, we can use either the MCAG or we can ask the city or move it elsewhere.
Okay, because there's an MSGSA meeting here.
Okay, so if we did the 14th, it would not be here. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Director.
All right. Show of hands. Who prefers the 14th? 1, 2, 3, 4. Who prefers the 21st?
The 21st, me.
Okay, so it looks like we have 4. I'll vote for the 14th too. So it looks like 5 for the 14th, 1 for the 21st, and then who doesn't care?
I don't care.
Okay.
I'm squiggly.
Josh, what about you?
I'm squishy.
You guys are killing me here.
All right.
So it sounds like we do have one director that has a definite conflict on the 14th.
Okay. Does anyone else have any definite conflicts on those days?
The other option is to cancel, but that is a little harder on our end.
Director
Okay, good.
Vogue, are you out of school on the 21st?
Me? Yeah. Yes.
It would be easier for you, correct?
To be on the 21st. But that's, whatever. It's okay.
Okay.
I mean,
Everybody okay if we leave it on the 21st? And
I'll be here.
yeah, I'll be around. Does anyone have a conflict on the 21st? Okay.
Okay.
well, don't move it just because of me. I know, don't do that just because
No, that's
of
what
me. I can miss a day. I'm okay.
Well, do you want to miss a day, or do you want us to keep it on the 21st?
We're doing it to the 21st.
We're doing it on the 21st.
All right,
Okay,
sorry.
thank you. We will bring
Lizzie, now she could've-
Bring it back the next month.
we'll place this item on consent next month.
Better be there on the 21st. Just realized now she could have had a meeting off, but.
So you made your bed now?
Yeah, yes, sir. That's pretty good. That teed him up good, man. All right, discussion items for Transit JPA. This is item 11, our draft 23-24 operation and capital budget for the bus. Nav. I don't know how to do it.
I got you.
Oh,
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, directors. Scared off Mr. Pereira already, Director. All right. All right. So this is a 23-24 draft budget for the bus. All right. Well, first off, start off with the accomplishments. We received 7 cutaways. If you ever see them on the west side or the east side, you'll see the white bus with the bus logo on them. We completed the construction of the transit admin building. We also issued a purchase order for 8 clean diesel buses. Those are slated to be in production for construction in October. So anybody that wants a tour of the facility, it's a Livermore. It's a great tour. And you get to see the build of the chassis, to the paint of the bus, to the decals, to A to Z to the bus. So if you want, it's a great tour, and then lunch is provided by the builder. We issued a purchase order for 8, actually, we talked about the 8. We issued a purchase order for 9 battery electric buses. 5 of them are slated to be received in June of 23 and late June, early July. And then the 4 Gilligs are slated to be received in March of 2024. We also initiated a TJPA planning process to transition to zero emission for our fleet and our facility. I'd like to highlight some accomplishments. We got a recognition. Director Serrato and Pedroza was at CalAct in April. We were nominated, as we mentioned last month, by our agents, by our peers throughout the whole California. We were one of 5 transit agencies that got nominated for Going Above and Beyond, which is an honor just to represent Merced County at that conference. For the new board members, and for the existing, a refresher, the type of service that we offer is fixed route, which is a set schedule along a fixed corridor. We have 15 routes in countywide. We also provide paratransit service, which is an on-demand service, which reservations are required, which is curb to curb. It's free to the passenger thanks to Measure V. And then microtransit for those on the west side, it provides a demand response service using an app, or you can call customer service. The service areas are Los Banos, Dos Palos, San Nela, and Gustine. Ridership. Pre-pandemics, we're close to almost 1 million rides, 900,000 rides in 18-19. As you can see, 22-23 has already exceeded its previous year's ridership. We're at 411,000 rides. The goal is to get at 70% of the pre-pandemic numbers. We still have a quarter left, and it looks like we're probably going to be achieving the 70%. One of the things that we're going to be incentivizing is the LC Top program, which I'll talk about in the revenues. All right, we'll jump into the 23-24 budget. The budget includes 2 sources of COVID relief funding. There's an increase of 6%, which is $1 million. The increase is in part of the operation and maintenance, which is an annual increase, fuel cost, staffing cost, and then maintenance and equipment cost, along with cost of living adjustment that's reflected in this budget, and a third of a position for IT tech. Last month, I brought an item for MCAG, which it's split 3 ways between MCAG, TJPA, and RWA, which James will be talking about later. Our priorities for next year is including route network improvement, ongoing replacement of aging fleet, and the facility and bus stop maintenance, along with capital projects and the future electrification of the fleet. We'll jump into expenditures first. What makes up the increase of $1 million? Professional services and special services increased by $371,000. That's mainly in part of staffing costs. Professional services, and then our contracts that we have with our other vendors. Operation maintenance increased by $371,000, which is a 3% increase. Fuel, equipment also increased, and then membership along with utilities increased as well. Any questions so far on the expenditures?
Questions?
What's the membership for?
Oh, so like CalAct, CTA, various memberships that we're a part of to help us utilize other resources throughout the transit agencies.
Thank you.
So how are we going to pay for those? So we got federal fundings. We increased the federal FTA increased our federal apportionments for 5307 along with 5311. So we have an increase in federal funding of $1.5 million, which is a 35% increase. Our state funding increased by 3%, which is $275,000. STA and LC Top. LC Top is what we're going to utilize to improve our ridership. For the month of July, August, September, it's free rides for those that don't qualify for Measure V, students for Merced College or UC Merced. We're also in July partnering up with our partners of North County Stanislaus, where they can ride our system and that we can ride this. Residents can ride each system at no additional cost. So hopefully that will boost up our ridership. And then our funding, local funding, our fare box, with those programs, also with the LC Top, we're also going to be doing free fares for the fair next year, again, for Los Banos and Merced County, or City of Merced. And then any major holidays that we operate, free fares. So hopefully that will incentivize riders to ride our service more. All right, capital budgets, key expenditures that are carrying over for 22-23. We have 22 buses on order. 9 of those are zero emission, 8 of those are full-size diesel buses, and 5 cutaways. Below are the funding sources for those. Along with bus stop improvement, our reserve funds for electrification of the facility, which was zero emission, and then a reserve for our technologies for our vehicles.
Before you go, Mr. Chair, if I could you go back one slide? One more? One more. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry I didn't catch this sooner, but I saw something that said National Express paying for Echo Lane. I don't know what that
Good question. So part of our negotiation to get out of a contract from our previous contractor, we negotiated that they give us money for our paratransit services. So they gave us $250,000 for that software. Instead of us paying for it going forward, they actually paid for the next 2 more years. So that's the $50,000.
Okay, so that's the
Yep.
software.
Yeah, software, and then they also give us transfer vehicles and other stuff.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, new capital projects for 23-24, putting additional money away for our zero emission facilities. One of the things that we had a meeting with Caltrans, or the state, the LC top funds that we're slated to put toward this zero emission, they said not eligible. So we'll be shifting the money from this project to another project and just moving the money around. It'll be coming out of the 13 cutaways. So instead of using the capital reserve, we'll be just shifting the money around on those. We're also going to be looking at purchasing 13 cutaways, which will help on a fixed route, paratransit, and microbus. And then also radios. Our radios are outdated. They're actually using tablets, which have an app. They're not reliable. So we're going to go back to our digital regular radios. The cost of purchasing this equipment is $100,000, and there's an annual fee every year that will be in our operational cost. So that concludes this presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for all your work on this topic. Any questions? Questions, thoughts, comments? You said with ridership, it's 411,000 approximately so far this year?
Yeah. So if we look at last year, it was 390,000. We're at 411, and we still have a quarter to go.
Okay. This doesn't count Q4, so April, May, June?
Correct. So we still got April, May, June.
And it is only fixed route.
Yeah.
So it does not capture paratransit, microtransit services.
Correct. Well, I think is microtransit? No. So yeah.
But those are considerably smaller ridership numbers. But as you can see, during the pandemic, our ridership dropped well below half, 50%, and we're starting to crawl our way out of that.
What, Mr. Chair, if I could,
yes,
sorry, what do you think caused that big spike in what is it, August of 2018-19?
That is the LC Top program.
Free fare.
Free fares. And so we're trying to incentivize the people to get back on the bus. Yeah.
And that was the same 22, 23, July, August,
Correct.
September?
Correct.
That's why you see that spike, smaller spike, but still a spike.
Right. And it's more of a subtle decline than versus that, like a stock market, 18, 19, 1.
God, you see a huge spike, 18, 19.
And generally, too, some of the trends is in the hotter months, taking an air-conditioned bus over walking, is typically a choice. We also operate. We try to target those summer months, basically from June through the fall, as much as we can for free ridership. We always see free rides. We see a spike because of that as well. And also with schools out, and you just see more recreational movement of people too. So it's a historical, just as we mentioned, December is typically always our lowest ridership month, basically between the holidays. So mid-December to mid-January-ish, is that fair?
So one of the things that LC Top program, we're actually going to do free fares in the last 2 weeks of December as well. So people can go shopping on the bus and, so incentivizing.
What kind of bump do you expect to see in June with free rides to the fair? Something negligible, or you think it'll be significant?
So for Merced fairs, usually fares well. This is the first time we did Los Banos. It was moderately kind of slow, but we're looking at usually it's a good item. It's a, I don't want to say a hot ticket, but it's a very popular item on the east side when it comes to the fair.
Okay. So this year, we're probably looking, all told, probably be around 530 to 500.
We also put your
1,000.
picture on the flyer, so I think we should be real, you know.
Used to be on the back of a milk box, but now a milk carton. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. This is a discussion item, the draft budget only. So there's no direction sought, discussion only. All right, takes us to item 13, another discussion item. This is the draft 23-24 operation and capital budget for the RWM.
RWA. Yeah. So this is our 23-24 RWA draft. I'm going to let James talk about our draft budget. If you have any questions, we'll both answer them.
Good afternoon, Chair Serrato, members of the board, staff, guests. This is going to be our update on our draft budget for 23-24. And we will start with a few of the challenges that we managed to overcome during 2022-2023. The extreme winter weather and rainfall. Obviously, we had a very wet and long winter. We are extremely glad to have seen it dry out at the landfills for the last 4 weeks or so. We're beginning to get caught up, finally. Along with some other things we looked at over the last couple of years. We've been before the board a number of times about our SB 1383 organic materials process. We are at the 99% line of getting that contract signed, which your board approved last month. We're making changes out at the site to prepare for the contractor to come on site probably sometime in June. We also spent quite a bit of time over the last couple of years looking at a tipping fee increase, which you approved last month. That will be implemented in July of 2024. And one of the other issues that we've really been challenged by is staff turnover. As you all know, I've been here about 4 months. If we go back about 18 months, then 4 of the 6 managers at the RWA have turned over in that time, along with some of our line staff. One of the other items we're looking at very closely with our operations staff is the age of that workforce. We have a highly aged workforce, and it kind of makes me laugh when they're saying, well, yeah, we're 62, 63. Well, I'm 61, so, but I'm not doing as much physical labor as they are. And believe me, that's very tasking on people. Some of the things we did do quite well at over the last couple of years. Despite all the weather and the other issues we had, we didn't really have any interruptions to landfill operations. We've got a great staff out there that is quick to adapt. Some of you may have heard a week ago Saturday, we had a computer issue and they had to go to manual tickets at the scale house on Saturday. They got through that, and on the following Tuesday, we had a vehicle knock over a power pole right outside the site, and we went to generator power at the scale house. The admin staff had to work without power for the full day, but they got through it. We also, over the last 6 months in particular, finished up managing the Oak Fire debris coming into the landfill, along with the Planada flood debris. Those 2 projects helped add to our overall increase in tonnages for the 2 sites. For the year, we were up, right now we're projecting about 17% over last year. That includes about a 14% increase at Highway 59 and nearly a 23% increase at Billy Wright. You know, those numbers offset each other a little bit because Billy Wright typically has a lower daily tonnage. So a change there is a higher percentage than we see at Billy Wright, or at Highway 59. Overall, we're looking at somewhere in the range of 700,000 tons disposed of this fiscal year, which is about 100,000 above last year. Some of the other things we took care of throughout the year, we hosted a number of HHW and community cleanup events. As I mentioned earlier, we're at the finish line for the organics design, build, operate process and the tip fee increase. And we are looking towards, we've already received our new pickup truck. It was a Ford F-350. I was up in Stockton on Tuesday looking at our dozer and compactor, which are both sitting in the Caterpillar yard up there. We hope the compactor will be delivered to us on Monday, and we're about a week away from the blade arriving for the dozer, and then it will be out at Highway 59, hopefully the first week of June. That was about a $4 million purchase between those two pieces of equipment. Okay, where are we at for our budget summary? Overall, we're looking at an increase of about 7%, or about $1.16 million. That's about 99% of that comes from our tipping fees, unlike our sister agency budgets where there's a lot of federal and state money. We get a little bit of grant money. We'll look at that in a minute, but it comes out to about 1/4% of our overall budget. We are projecting an increase in operating expenses of about $2.5 million. I do want to mention that part of that is a $1.4 million pass-through for the organics processing. Those are funds that we will receive at the scale house, but immediately pass on to the organics processor. So that is a big jump in our budget. We are asking for 2 additional staff positions, 1 equipment operator, 1 maintenance worker. That's really tied to our operations and our safety at the sites. When we talk about that additional tonnage, we have surpassed the point of excess capacity for staff, and we're getting there for equipment. So we'll see how things go over the next couple of years. We'll be closely watching our tonnages. We'll talk a little bit in a moment about the import tons that were coming into the 2 sites. I know that's of interest to all of you, and we'll be looking at that over the next couple of years. Some of the budget priorities that we're looking at, as I said, maintaining proper staffing, keeping our equipment updated, continuing to pay down the bond debt. We have 5 more payments on the bond. It's just under $11 million. The last payment's due to be paid in July of 2027. We are currently using a pledge of revenue for our closure fund. As we transition away from that bond debt, we will start making those payments directly into our closure funds for both sites. We still have a number of capital projects ongoing that we'll discuss in a few moments. We are closely watching the landfill airspace. We just opened up the new cell out at Billy Wright, and it's rather staggering to see how fast that hole starts filling up. We'll mention we have the ribbon cutting ceremony out there tomorrow for the scale house and the cell, and if any of you want, we'll take you down for a ride. We'll go down and look at the active cell and watch the equipment and the garbage being placed into there. The 1383 organic material transfer facility, that will be started up. We've got the timeline from the contractor. Initially, they're just going to take over our permit for green waste processing on site, but they are going to construct a facility for covered aerated static pile composting. We're looking at probably 12 or 14 months for that facility to be built. And again, one of our primary priorities is maintaining our regulatory compliance. As many of you know, we have multiple agencies that inspect us, from the state, water board, air districts, to our local health enforcement folks. And so far, we are doing a good job of staying ahead of them. There we go. Okay, our projected revenue and expenses, we've got a comparison here between the approved budget that we're currently working under for 22-23 and our proposed budget for 23-24. As you can see on the tipping fee, we're showing a slight decrease, not really counting on that disaster revenue from things like the fires and the floods. We do have the organics pass-through there of slightly over $1.4 million. The rest of our services are pretty comparable. As I said, that grant income, we are hoping for a slight increase in that. We're going to focus some more attention on applying for and getting those grants. Those are for things like HHW, used oil, other materials that we divert from the landfill. The state has a number of programs that we can get funds for educational outreach and items of that nature. So we're going to go after that. But again, $47,000 out of a $17 million budget is a pretty small percentage. Operating expenses, we do anticipate an increase of about $500,000 on staffing costs. That includes the COLA, the additional employees, budget or benefit increases. On our supplies and service expense, that number changes the most there, from 6.6 to about 8.6. Part of that is that 1.4 million pass-through for the organics. So overall, we just had about a $600,000 jump there. Again, consultant fees, fuel, maintenance, and equipment. Brings us for our total operating expenses to a total of just under 14.4 million. Questions?
Yes, sir. Can you explain to me why if the approved interest was 50,000 in 22-23, why with interest rates going up? Is that interest we're charged or interest that we gain?
So that interest that we gain, but we have these big projects, like we spent $10 million on the construction of the cells and then all these equipment. That's money that we're not getting interest anymore on.
Okay.
So it's just
Even though the rates have gone up,
Yeah.
we have smaller balances in those reserves.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, here are the items we're going to have in our capital fleet purchase budget for 23-24. Recall a few minutes ago I talked about that compactor and that dozer. Those two pieces of equipment last year were about $4 million total. For this coming year, the large item we're looking at is a water pull truck for Billy Wright, around $800,000. Billy Wright, we're going to add in the GPS equipment that we're using out at Highway 59 now in the equipment. That allows the operators to keep track of their compaction, and it helps us with our engineering. We're looking at buying 4 pickup trucks for next year. We are working, trying to figure out, talk about a moving target, goals and directives from the state as far as going to clean fuel vehicles or electric vehicles for our light duty fleet. Honestly, it's quite a headache, but our goal is to update our current fleet right now. Those 4 trucks will replace 2 that I believe are 2007 vehicles and 2 that are 2009s. So if you can imagine how much wear and tear your vehicles get on the highway, imagine what our trucks out on the landfill every day. They're pretty beat up. So we need to get those replaced and try to be in as good a shape as we can when we start looking at electric vehicles for the site. But this is going to have its own challenges. We have a request for a new tarp machine that attaches to our bulldozer. We use that to put the tarps out for daily cover. We have a loader for Billy Wright, about $350,000, service truck, and then a couple of accessory units for our loader and our Bobcat. Capital improvement projects. As you know, we currently had about $39 million of previously authorized projects. As Nav said, we're looking at spending about $8 million this year, finishing those off. That was the scale house at Billy Wright, the new cell at Billy Wright and Highway 59. We've got a number of other projects in process right now, including the low NOx flare out at Highway 59. We expect that flare to be put on a truck next month and shipped out to the site. We'll be putting that up in late June, early July. So when we move down the chart there to the middle, the encumbered balance as of the end of the third quarter was just under $23 million. We've made a few changes for some items that we either don't need anymore, such as the organic processing facility plans and construction at Highway 59. Thanks to the approval of the organics DBO, those are projects that we won't have to do in-house. So we've decreased those budgets, moved some of the money into our other projects, such as the landfill gas system expansion at Highway 59. We're setting another $2 million aside for the admin office construction, and a small amount down there, the $50,000 to add power to our leachate tank system out at Billy Wright. Currently, we operate that system on generators. There's a summary of those increases and decreases. As I said, a few highlights. The burn box, those were other organic processing options that were set aside a couple of years ago. Actually, on those items, further discussions with the Air District led to the fact that we would not be able to utilize that equipment at the site based on our current air permit. So that was kind of a double negative for those items. And then again, the few increases. We do have about $4 million in new projects that we're proposing to add to the budget. And I'll get to that in just a second. I do want to run through kind of this summary here real quick, showing the cash balance, $34 million, showing the interest for 22-23, as Director Silvera was asking about. This is on our capital project side. Transfers in of $1 million, less our $8 million that we're going to spend this year, our remaining encumbered, the decrease, the new projects. That leaves us with an unencumbered balance on the capital project side of about $1.7 million. So here's those new projects that we're looking at. Some additional projects out at Billy Wright, some additional paving in our household hazardous waste area, a leachate pond. Currently out there, as I said, we're just collecting leachate in tanks and using it for dust control on our lined cells. As the site gets larger, the amount of leachate we can handle that way goes down. So we need to have that evaporation pond for treatment out there. We are looking at both Billy Wright and Highway 59, setting aside $1 million in this budget for the next cell expansion at each site. A couple other, the two items there at the bottom, the CEM trailer expansion. That's the carpet, electronics, and mattress trailer system that we put in last year. As we've begun working with that, we've determined it would be more effective if we add another trailer into the middle of it. It'll give us more space inside to maneuver the forklift and move into the different trailers that we place the materials in. And that fire rover system is proposed for our new materials transfer building that's part of our infrastructure project that'll be going out to bid this summer. That's going to replace our current open air recyclables transfer pad. We're going to put that inside a building, but that's one of our greatest fire hazard products is that dry cardboard and plastic. Unfortunately, we see a lot of items get mixed in there. Many of you have heard probably about the issues we have at landfills with lithium batteries and the fires that can cause. Many times we watch that pile of cardboard pretty carefully. This fire rover system, once we put it inside a building, it becomes more complicated. But we went down to Fresno. They have this system at the material recovery facility down there, and it is a dual purpose system. It uses both cameras and thermal sensors to look for hot spots. And then they actually have a pressurized water cannon system that their operators can operate remotely to point the cannon directly at the hot spot and put it out before it turns into a major fire. So again, $250,000 for that item. Okay. Quick summary. As we said on the capital project side, total new of about $4 million. Operating cash revenue, not quite $5 million. Operating expenses of about $14.4. Debt and capital, that's our bond payment and other items, leaving us with a cash flow of $1 for next year. Fleet, we've currently got about $4.5 million in that budget. We're going to spend $2 million next year, leaving us with a balance of about $2.4. And with that, I will take any other questions.
Questions for Mr. Moore? All right, seeing none. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. All right, takes us to item 14, which is Stacy's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few items to address with the board today. I do want to start by offering the agency's condolences to the city of Livingston and specifically Director Moran for the unexpected passing of Chief Hale. And maybe recommend a moment of silence at the closure of the meeting. I do want to thank many of you who participated in One Voice, Directors Nagy, McDaniel, Yanez, Silvera, Serrato, Nelson, Moran. Oh, sorry, Director Espinoza. Hogue, who's right here next to me. Just thank you all. I know that it's a lot. It's a commitment leading into to prepare for a productive trip. It's a huge time commitment to take a week of your daily, regular lives to spend there. I think it was an excellent trip. We had great meetings. We're already hearing about some positive, follow-up items and conversations that are happening. So I just want to thank you all for making that such a successful trip. And of course to Mary Michael and Griselda and Marissa and the team at MCAG who did all of the behind the scenes work with Townsend Public Affairs to make sure that everything was squared away. And don't forget that we have a debrief immediately following this meeting at Destino's. There's free pizza. So, it is a meal at no cost to you. All right. As James mentioned, we do have our Billy Wright landfill event tomorrow. I don't know that we've ever had an event at Billy Wright before. If you have not been out to the landfill, it's really it is just different than what you might have experienced at 59. But we're there to celebrate the new scale house. We came out of the Cold War era of our scale house and now have a new scale house, and it's really nice. And we actually have directional scales. If you'd been out there before, you would have to go in and out from the same scale, and now there's directional scales. We'll do a quick ribbon cutting, take some pictures, and then we'll have vehicles and staff prepared to take everyone on a tour. If any of our East Side board members want a ride, let me know. We have several staff vehicles going over. We can just give you a seat there. Also, in terms of who that is open to any of your staff that want to attend, and we have invited the local media, really concentrating on the West Side media for photo opportunities and whatnot. I also want to share, I saw that, Maddie Brown, our CAC representative, was on. She is typically the standing representative for our reports. I did receive and regrettably accepted her resignation notice from the CAC, so she has had an exciting employment opportunity here in the Valley. We hope that we'll get to continue to work with her, but as you know, she's been an asset to the agency on the CAC, so we are sad to see her go. And one kind of just heads up and something a little more technical. On a heads up, some of this is new, will be new to some of you that haven't gone through this process, but one of the core functions of MCAG is to adopt a regional transportation plan, which think of that as the federal requirement, and a sustainable community strategy, which is a state requirement. We have to do that every 4 years. This board adopted our RTP SCS in, I believe, August of this year, and then those get submitted to the respective agencies. For the SCS, it goes to the California Air Resources Board, and then there is quite a bit of back and forth with their technical modeling folks, and our team and our modeling consultant and our air quality consultants that ultimately should, and almost always for everyone across the state, results in an approval or an acceptance of your SES. And the core product or the core challenge of the SES is we are provided a target reduction percentage, saying we need to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from vehicle miles traveled by X percent by X year. And we have to put a plan together that shows investments in our infrastructure over a period of time that will show how we could achieve those reductions with these particular strategies. It's really technical, really complicated, but that's the heart of it. I share all of that because we as an agency, as a small agency, along with several others, have struggled with this process, but we have been successful. We submitted all of the required material to CARB several weeks ago, so we are a little early in the process. We're waiting to get back, and we'll do what we need to do. But I'm saying all of this now because just today we had another meeting of the Valley COG directors, and there is increasing concern about this process and the potential for Valley COGs for receiving rejection notices for their SCSs. Some are starting to already hear some preliminary, I don't know, maybe disapprovals are on the table potentially. And I just want to highlight that because it is technical, and we do have a good relationship with CARB, and we jump through the hoops and do what we need to do, and we're all trying to improve our air. But the reality is that a disapproval, or until we get an approval of our SCS, jurisdictions will not be eligible for SB1 competitive funding programs. So that's the TCEP application, pool of funding, which I know the county has submitted for AME in the past. There are real implications to funding eligibility, and more broadly, what some of the internal discussions that are happening are pointing to the need to remove your widening projects in order to meet the thresholds. Yeah. So this is just another path where we're hearing more and more around pressures that will ultimately lead to making widening or lane capacity projects more difficult to fund, because this is really tied to the funding side of it. This isn't the CEQA side where you have to do the SB 743 mitigation, showing how you're going to mitigate for VMT. This is a modeling exercise that if you don't get the approval through a fairly subjective process at ARB, your project would not be none of our projects would be eligible for those funds. So this is a very early heads up because it's not setting well with any of us. My colleagues are really, who have applications in, those awards will be made, announced June 8th, and no one in the Valley has received their approval despite submitting on time by the required deadline. So there's just a real, this is likely going to be a very long discussion that I would fully anticipate our board being engaged in at some point once we get through this most immediate crisis. So I know there was a lot there, but I'll keep you posted. I just want to make sure that I also will add to that, if your jurisdiction starts talking about submitting a grant, please have them contact us, because we would not want you to go through this process for a pot of funding that the region is not eligible for yet. So please just share that message. And then lastly, quick one, I got a notice from Caltrans today, and if they haven't announced it yet publicly, for the Highway 99 project in Merced, there's going to be a traffic shift, a lane shift. So the southbound lane will shift to the northbound median from 16th to Mission. So anytime there's that shift of lanes as they do work, it can be a little disruptive. So if you haven't received that press release and you're interested in it, we'll get it pushed out. They also list a number of extended ramp closures that are scheduled in June, July, and August, all along from V Street, Martin Luther King, R 16th. All of those ramps are going to have periodic closings. So I'll make sure to forward it to the staff, particularly on the east side, but I'll make sure that gets out, and just be aware and help spread the word so that there's safe conditions and traffic movement on our highway. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Stacy. Any questions for Stacy? All right, seeing none, Director's report, starting on my right, Director Espinosa.
Thank you. One of the roads on the west side in city and county is Mission Boulevard. I think we should look at it. It's a regional road, and I think it's over the rainy season it was very bad. I was getting a lot of constant calls on it, and it was hard to patch when it was raining a lot. So I know that it's, city county, but hopefully we can look at to Measure B funds to fix it. Just not west of 59. That's not my district anymore. Just kidding. Also, I just want to talk about city county rotations on the board. In the past, there have been issues, and I know that, as a board of supervisors, we haven't discussed on the agenda the rotation, and I think I was supposed to be vice chair, as a rotation, and so, we got to talk about fairness.
I was supposed to be, and I.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but then it would have jumped to me. No, so. Okay, just like I said, but I just want to talk about fairness because also, and as a city, I think we want to make sure the cities rotate, evenly in fairness for everybody, smaller, bigger cities. I just want to make sure that, like I said, when I came in on the board here, there was, I was only on the board for 6 months, and what should have been a year, and I wasn't doing it for me because Livingston had not been chairman of the board for like 12 to 15 years, so I just want to make sure there's fairness all around, and not let, make sure give the ability to the cities as well. So, also regarding, last month as I was waiting on the Transport Center in Merced, I was able to talk to some of the bus drivers, and at the train station, bus station there. And they were talking about the bathrooms being very dirty, and I went in there, and they were being kept up. So hopefully we can, do a little bit more maintenance on the restrooms for the employees and for the general public, because as a station, I think we look, don't look good when it's not kept up. That one, and also I know the city of Merced takes care of the Amtrak station, so hopefully we can do a better job. I know that separately, but. So thank you very much. That's all my comments.
Thank you.
Oh, come on. There we go. I do just want to mention, and Director Espinosa, we could talk about this. So the board has a rotation policy that sets the rotation between city, county, and then outlines a rotation for the city representatives. So that's set that just for that purpose, that the cities have a structure that allows that. To the point on, though, the Board of Supervisors, it sounds like you might be referring to how the county determines within the districts who is up for the MCAG, because it is a county position every other year. There is no MCAG policy on how that happens. It just is at the discretion of the county. So that would be an issue of the County Board of Supervisors to address. So I just want to clarify that. And then you are correct on the Transpo Center. We have had some conversations with the city. It is the Transpo is a city facility, but we are aware and have talked about how we could try to figure out a way to make improvements to the bathroom facilities, just for those reasons.
Thanks, sir. Director Nelson.
Briefly, I just want to say thank you to the staff for their efforts in Washington, D.C., getting that all set up and herding us around. Some of us are harder to herd than others, but maybe they'll drop a tile or something in Matt's pocket next time so I keep track of him. But I think it was an effort, a well put together effort. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Moran.
Hi. Yes. Again, I want to say thank you to the staff that did all the pre-work and the work there in Washington, and it was definitely a learning experience. I was very happy to have to get confirmation while we were there from the USDA department that even though Livingston had been working on some loans from the USDA, it's on the books, so that was good to hear. And so we're going to continue working on that as well. And thank you, Stacy, for the request and for sending your condolences to the staff, City of Livingston. And I also wanted to ask to I'm going blank.
Adjourn?
Adjourn in the memory of our Livingston Police Chief, Chuck Hill. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left, April.
Thank you. First, I want to say, yes, condolences to the city of Livingston. Chuck Hale was a Dos Palace resident for a long time and worked there closely with our police department, so we will be missing him. I had a walkathon at the end of, I don't even know if it was in May. I can't remember now. It was in April, huh? Yes. And I'd just like to say that we raised $3,600 for our walkathon, which is 7 scholarships that we'll be issuing out for in memory of Christina McDaniel. So I was very, very pleased to find out that that's how much we ended up depositing. So thank you for those who contributed to that. And then I'd also like to thank the MCAG staff for letting me tag along with the One Voice trip. I learned so much, and it was such a beautiful trip, and I am still awestruck by all the things that I saw there. So I was very pleased that Dos Palace had a seat at the table this year, and I hope that we will benefit to all of those meetings that I went to. But thank you very much for keeping me informed on all of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Scotty?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple things. First off, I did want to say thank you to staff for the bus, for the rides to and from Spring Fair. I know we had a couple bad days of weather there that really didn't show the numbers. I'm curious to see what they all end up as. And I do know if we can commit to doing this moving forward, I promise on our end, at least on the Spring Fair's end, is making sure that we make that a part of our announcements and kind of do a little bit more advertising. Because I did, when I pushed it out on my social media, got a lot of feedback of how great of an idea it was. And so I think it's something that, will grow over time. And so I know there's a cost associated with it. But if we follow through with that, and it sounds like we are, I hope that we can continue to increase those numbers. And I don't know if I said it before, but again, this is already going back a couple months ago. Thanks, Stacy and the RWA staff. I know we were making phone calls in real time when we were in the EOC of just challenges of trying to be able to have a way to unload dumpsters and at different hours, and it just want everybody to know up here the staff was just so accommodating to our haulers, to really kind of going above and beyond. And I'm almost going to say giving them special access, creating a special lane, if you will, for them to be able to do those things. And that was very much appreciated and made me feel kind of proud and special, because you're sitting in this EOC and there's, I don't know, 30 people all doing their own special thing, and myself and my colleagues were in there at different times and just happened to be there. I was like, oh, look, I know a person. I called, and then bang, it happened. So really appreciate that. And this is just food for thought. You guys mentioned earlier that we have all these people that come and inspect us at the dumps from all these different agencies. Is there any thought to us as an agency creating a resolution that we charge them for coming to inspect our fees, so that we can, because and I'm being serious in that anytime they come there, we don't just let them go run nilly-willy all over the place. It takes up our staff's time to coordinate and to be able to have to be there and show these people the things that they need to inspect. That all comes, ultimately at the ratepayers, which is our boss's expense. And so I say it tongue-in-cheek, but I'm half serious about exploring an idea that we pass, that every time they come out and inspect us, that we send them a bill for what they've, we can't charge for profit, but the actual cost to host them at our facilities. And then the last thing is, again, I've been on the One Voice trip for a few years now. I did the virtual thing. I did the in-person thing. I'm proud to say I came back this year with no injuries. That was a testament to Stacy being kind of a little under the weather, and so I had to hold it together for the team. But just really a great job on really coordinating. I do want to say that I showed up to a meeting earlier on my second day than I needed to because somebody tricked me into it. And then the last thing is something that unique happened on this trip. It was the first time that 6 mayors, 2 supervisors made an interim city manager into a permanent city manager. Now I know that I convened a meeting, and it was a unanimous vote, but I know that doesn't really hold any water, but it was still cool to say that there was a meeting. And really, on a side note to that, first time that all 6 mayors were on the trip, and so I think it was really good for everybody to experience for the first time ones, the ones that have been there before. It's a hustle and bustle trip, a lot of meetings, a lot of different places, but I think that ultimately it's not as what some people might think. Oh, you go back there and then you come home with a big check. It doesn't work that way, but it's the little nuggets of information that you gain. I mean, we're sitting in one meeting where we got the inside track on a new program that's going to be released, like I think was it Tuesday of this week, but we got the inside track on it. And so just I think overall a great trip, and really I don't know that every jurisdiction throughout the country goes back there, but my goal every time I go there is to really put Merced County and all of our agencies on the map, because I do believe that if everything is equal and we're applying for these grants and it comes down to you have 2 that are exactly scored the same and they have to make a choice, one or the other, hopefully we've left them with a good impression of Merced County and how we work together, and ultimately that I'd like to think that could be the deciding factor on why we get a grant versus not getting a grant. So thank you to everybody involved.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lambert? Actually, I'm usually not all this quiet. I want to thank everyone. Just my first meeting here, so hopefully it's not my last, because Paul's usually pretty persistent. But we did kind of honor Chief of Livingston last night, and our condolences go out to the family. He was actually one of my daughter's coaches at Pacheco High School. So, but other than that, I appreciate all you guys. Hopefully, I get to see you. I normally get to see you guys at the city dinners, but appreciate having me here. I hope to see you back here again. Yes, sir. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Appreciate your work today. Director McDaniel.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to just follow up on, I think this was the best attendance of every meeting on a one-voice trip. We always have the stragglers who seem to disappear throughout the meeting process, don't show up to certain meetings when they're supposed to, and stuff like that. But this was very consistent with everybody showing up, and I think the strike teams are very effective in this way, because we all have roles and we all need to show up, and you need to speak your part. And this year, doing it for a few years now, but it's how we definitely have developed a relationship with a lot of these folks, how they are, when you walk in the building, they're already looking forward to, oh, Darren, I knew you were coming. This is great. And so that kind of gives you like a little extra step. And I think we actually took one even further because the police chief from Gustine was actually in town for another thing, because this week is police week in Washington, D.C., and he was with a Memorial Pipers band that was performing there, and he actually invited us to a meeting where we were able to meet the director of the COPS program, and I think we have him coming out in January actually for the Chiefs meeting, and that was a really good bond, because that's the ultimate pin on COPS grants. And I think Mayor Llanes from Los Banos did a very good job in that meeting, as well as Mayor Nelson, whenever they got direct responses from their chiefs to do feedback on the COPS grant. And I think everybody there was very, very appreciative of that information. And it wasn't new to them, but they were ready. They were already in the process of trying to figure out how to make it better and more acceptable to the smaller rural cities. And so that was actually an excellent meeting at that point. But to all staff, thank you. It was a really good trip. Mary Michael, you picked a very nice hotel, the Hampton Suites, which we were there on a budget. So our bosses should appreciate that. but yet the rooftop was a great view of the ballpark, and that was an unexpected pleasantry there, although I didn't spend too much time on the rooftop and I would highly recommend folks, well, maybe this goes to our CEO at the county, we need to schedule our trip a little different, because when you get in at 2 a.m. and you have to be up by 6 the next morning for your first meeting, it kind of puts you in sleep deprivation for the rest of the trip. Probably kept us in line a little better that way, but we were a little more focused, but it made for a tough trip.
Kept us on our best behavior.
Yes, it did, and I slept very well over the weekend after getting home because of lack of sleep. But besides that, I thought it was a really good meeting today. Director Espinoza, I don't think I was at that meeting either. I think we need to be a little more precise on in our rotation. I do like it to be fair and consistent. As you know, that's my theme always. We treat everybody exactly the same. It's consistency at all times. And if we need to do a further discussion, I'm prepared to do that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Director Nagy.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to echo what everyone else has said, to thank staff for all their hard work and the commitments, and every one of us was at every meeting we were supposed to be to, but the feds missed a couple and stood us up, so no fault to anybody but them. I think it was a great trip, and I'm proud of the fact that all 6 mayors were there and participating, and each of us had a unique perspective, and I'm very grateful. And my condolences go out to the city of Livingston. You know, that's a horrible loss and tragic. So my heart goes out, my prayers to you. Even Mayor Serrato, he chaired the whole thing and did a great job throughout the whole process. And so I want to thank you too. And a big thanks to Mayor Hogue, or Director Hogue, because she always took the back seat. and I didn't have to crawl in the back seat. So.
Yes, sir, miss. Thank you, Pat. Vice Chair Pedroso.
Yes, just echo what everybody said about Chief Hale. What a tragedy. And I hope that I spoke with the sheriff this morning and issued my condolences to him. I know they were very close, and to the city of Livingston, I know it's a tough deal for them, and prayers to his family.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, again, thank you everybody for a great One Voice trip, and my condolences, thoughts, and prayers with Chuck Hale, his family, his friends in the city of Livingston as well. I knew Chuck. Share a quick little story. Knew him very well. We did a ton of cases together over the years. Chuck, of all, at least in my opinion, of all the people who I had on the witness stand over the years, he was, if not the best police witness, definitely top 5. He was that good as a witness. And one time before we were doing a home invasion robbery trial, and I walk out, and I'm walking down the hallway. There are a bunch of cops out there, and Chuck, who was, if you knew him, he was a little salty from time to time. He goes, "Serrato, you can ask me a bunch of stupid," I'll save some of the words, yes, crazy, stupid questions, such as, well, they used he did a lot of good work on these cases, and used a phone number to get a ping on a phone, and used that ping on the phone to find the suspect in this case. He goes, "You're gonna ask me some crazy question up there, like what was the exact phone number I used, and what were the GPS coordinates of where we found the guy?" And I'm like, "Well, no, you can send your report, you can." He goes, but he interrupts me. He goes, "But if you do, it's 209-678-4287, and the GPS coordinates are 37.06.1 negative 120. Chuck Hale, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll adjourn in his honor with a brief moment of silence afterwards. So thank you all for a good meeting. Meeting is adjourned.